Shift happens, sometimes by choice, sometimes by circumstance. And when it does, you have two options. You can either cling to the life you've outgrown or step into the version of you that knows she's meant for more. I'm Gia Lacqua, trauma-informed empowerment coach and founder of Radical Prioritization. Welcome to What the Shift, the podcast for women who've outgrown the life they've built and are ready to create one that finally fits. Here we get real about the shifts that change everything: identity shifts, career pivots, relationship resets, mindset breakthroughs, and learning how to finally release what's holding you back. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just be ready for what's next. It's time to shift. Hey, it's Gia. Quick check-in. Are you thriving or just functioning at a really high level? If your to-do list is never done, if you're the go-to for everyone else but feel invisible in your own life, if you're exhausted from doing all the things but still feel like it's never enough, you might be overfunctioning. Take 2 minutes and find out. Go to my website, gialacqua.com, and on the homepage, you will find the quiz. I created it for high achievers who are doing too much for too many with too little in return. So this is your wake-up call. Stop surviving and start shifting. All right, let's get into it. If you feel like life is shifting, you're in the right place. I'm Gia Lacqua, and this is What the Shift. Today, I am so excited to introduce Leslee Owen to the show. Leslee is the co-founder and CEO of Movement Maker Web Design Agency, where she helps established female CEOs optimize outdated websites to increase sales. With over 20 years of experience in digital media and television, she's led groundbreaking marketing strategies that align business growth with personal values. Her expertise was honed during her time as a marketing leader for C12, a business advisory group for Christian CEOs and executives. As a certified life and business coach and recognized consumer marketing expert of female millennials, Leslee founded the Confident Mompreneur community and co-founded Babes Support Babes, an 80-plus member community in San Antonio, empowering female entrepreneurs, frequently speaking on market positioning, website optimization, and the power of content marketing and AI. She continues to champion women in both business and life. Leslee, so thrilled to have you join us today. Welcome to the show.
Gia, thank you so much. You and I were talking a little bit about how today, of the time of this recording, it's actually my birthday, my 40th birthday. So I can't think of a better place to be than talking about, really big shifts that change everything. So
I
thank
love
you for
that.
having me.
Of course, I love that. And happy birthday to you. A lot to celebrate. So tell us a little bit about what led you to the work that you're doing today.
Definitely a long, windy road that was not linear. I knew in college I was an education major and then kind of stopped in my tracks and said, you know what, I really don't want to be in a physical school all of my life. And so I had kind of this crisis, and I went to my mentor and my advisor and I said, tell me what major I need to declare where I can just speak to women and help influence their lives. And she said, well, why not do speech communication? Started off there, ended up getting an internship and producing a video for a very big college project, and fell in love with it. I never knew that I would like more of the behind the scenes camera work. I was always someone that loved being in front of the camera, and that led me to a television producer role that I was in for 13 years. And so produced various types of content. I did lifestyle talk shows, I did documentaries, I did commercial spots. Even did kids TV at one point. And so it wasn't until I had a very significant loss in my life. My grandfather passed away on my 30th birthday. And, I really started to question, what am I doing with my life? He was someone that always encouraged me to dream and to ask me what those dreams were. And I knew that I wasn't really living them anymore. So fast forward, found myself in corporate marketing after that producer role. In 2020, joined the Great Resignation with millions of other women that left, and decided to pick up my side consulting and do it full time. And now I find myself about, 4 years out from that. And my husband and I joined forces. He has always been a great web designer, something that he had always done on the side. And I said, well, let me take my marketing strategy and the network that I have. Let's get this together. And so now we have employees, we have a thriving web design agency. And so if you were to ask me 10 years ago, when you sat me down in that very critical moment where I really had no idea where things were going, I probably would have thought that you were crazy, but loving all of these things and really feeling like I'm living my wildest dream.
Incredible. What an amazing story. I love all the shifts and the
Yeah.
pivots along the way that you
Yeah.
embraced. And I love the fact that at such a young age, you were able to pinpoint, I want to help empower and support
Oh, mhm,
women.
mhm.
And there's no major for that.
There isn't. I wish. It would have been very helpful.
Right?
Nope.
So it's interesting. But yeah, we sort of have to find our way, but you knew early on that this is what you were called to do. So I
Yeah.
love that. Now, along that journey, you've made a lot of choices,
Mhm,
decisions, and sometimes hard shifts.
mhm.
And you actually walked away. This is a little bit of a unique, situation that I want to talk about. You walked away from things that were working for
Yes.
you. You walked
Yes.
away from a profitable coaching business. You walked away
Yes.
from a podcast you were doing and,
Yeah.
various, situations. So, and that can be very difficult for
Mhm,
anybody. I
mhm.
think as it applies to high achieving women, because that's our audience, we become very, our identity
Mhm.
becomes very entrenched in what we do and what we've built. And then it becomes really hard to let go, especially when it's working.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it's not working,
Oh, easy. We're like, "I'm done."
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us about what did it take in order for you to make those decisions and what did it give you?
You know, during that time, when I had the coaching and the group coaching programs that were happening, um, I have learned to become very in tune with that small voice that just kind of helps me determine, am I aligned or am I not? And when I was about to launch my third, I think it was maybe my third or fourth group coaching cohort, there was something in me that I just had this sinking feeling. Like it was like, "Ugh, okay, we got to do this again." Mind you, I have my team working on the promotional graphics. I have them gearing up and working on the offer. We're changing the website. I mean, we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, and yet I can't shake the fact that there is something in me that doesn't want to do it. Um, and and the programs, I mean, they would bring in tens of thousands of dollars, right? Like I mean, they're very good programs. And it wasn't until, and I try regularly to do some type of solo trip once a quarter where I really can get quiet. And so if I am finding that there is some discontentment here, I feel like something's off, I make space to listen. And so I had the opportunity in August of 24 to go to Anderson Island, which was this little island off of Washington and in Seattle. Beautiful in nature. It's my happy place. And just sitting outside, silent, and really asking myself, this coaching group, does coaching in general, is it going to bring me what I want and where I'm aiming in life? And so where I am now and at the time, sustainability, right? I want family sustainability. I want to be able to travel with my family. I want to be able to be present with the kids that I have 4 kids. And so it's one of those things that I know that my time is limited with them. I have teenagers. My son is 15. I have 3 more solid years with him under my roof. And so going hard with a program that requires so much of me, and then really not feeling like I was hitting enough revenue targets that were bringing this like sustainability. Everything still relied so much on what I'm doing. And so in that moment, I decided I'm shutting down this launch. And we were in the middle of it. Like
Wow.
I had just finished a speaking event where I was promoting it. And so got on the call with my assistant and told her, we're shutting it down. I need to pull everything from social, cancel the speaking events, and create a post for me where I'm announcing that this isn't happening. So talk about swallowing that, like something so humble and so public, but it needed to happen. And I got back home and it was done. I felt like there was a weight lifted, but then there was like other things that kind of bubbled up, and it was my podcast. And the podcast it's called Mission and Motherhood. And I love the idea of talking to women like you and like me who are doing both. They're pursuing both their mission and still being present with the children that they have. But it was a grind. Like, I mean, getting the guests prepped, and I want to show up well as a host, so I'm like prepping and I'm
Mhm.
getting all the questions ready. I want to read all of the books that they have, and I just knew that that was also um just not going to be something that I could sustain, because while all of this was going on, I was also in the middle of really trying to boost the web design agency. And we were getting a lot more clients. And I had hit a capacity of what I was able to do, what I was able to sell,
Mm.
because I was so involved with everything else. So it was letting go of something good and believing, not knowing it yet, like wasn't a guarantee, but believing that the web design and going all in with that would be better, would be greater. So since making that decision, that's exactly what has happened. I mean, we have scaled significantly and brought on employees, and we've been able to just do so much, and are seeing that family sustainability happen because the revenue is now there. And I'm it was such a hard decision, but one that I'm so glad that I made, because it was honest. It was just an
Mhm.
honest decision.
Mhm. Love that, and I love that you carve out the time to get
Mhm,
quiet, and to
mhm,
hear that, I think you called it a small voice, your
mhm,
inner knowing, your intuition, whatever you wanna call it, and I think
mhm.
sometimes that voice is so small that many of us tune it out. So, giving yourself the ability to tune into it
Oh
is
yeah,
just incredible. I love that.
yeah.
Talk to us about, in the work that you do, you talk about radical focus.
Mhm.
What does that concept mean to you, and how does it apply in your personal and professional life?
So instead of traditionally planning out an entire year and setting maybe year goals, we like to break these things down, objectives, into 90-day sprints, is what we call them. I think scientifically, our motivation lasts about 90 days. And so
Even
why
that
not
seems
leverage,
long, right?
right? Why not leverage what my brain can handle?
Yep.
And so we have found that really creating these, and I love that they're not just objectives, they're inspirational objectives. There are things that get me out of bed and get me excited for what I'm about to do. And so a lot of them, I mean, I will create objectives in the dashboard that we have. I can upload pictures, and a lot of them, I have like a picture of my family. And maybe that is the picture, and I tie it to financial stability for the Owen household, and it'll be a picture of my family. And I know that in order to do that, I'm going to have X amount of sales calls every week, right? And those need to turn into X amount of proposals. And so um, we break it down that way because they're achievable that way. And I'm not getting lost in maybe a year's revenue target
Sure.
that can feel so overwhelming, but I can do 90 days and I can push it, and it'll push me, but I can see it versus something that is very grand. And so because my husband and I are co-owners, not only do we plan that way in business, it was just a natural lead in for us to plan that way in our household. So every Sunday we have what we call alignment meetings. And now that we have employees, we don't have to go as detailed into all of the business stuff. We can keep it pretty high level, but it allows time for us to now ask ourselves, what do we want the Owen household to look like in 90 days? And I don't know about you, but sometimes, at least for us, we're going in so many different directions. We have a lot of intentions. Oh, we'd love to have a family vacation. Oh, we'd love to sign Liam up for baseball. Oh, we'd love to have Vienna try out for some dance stuff, this summer. But it would be nice. But because we have every Sunday, we know that we're going to sit down and we're going to execute on those things. It actually happens. And so we've had more trips between like the both of us and our children. We're getting ready to go to Disney World this summer. It's going to be very interesting with all of them, but it's happening. It's not just oh, that would have been nice. Oh gosh, it's too late for that. Um and I just don't know. I think everything before we started doing this was just a life of reactivity. just woulda, coulda, shoulda. And now, radical focus means we're aiming, like we aim, and it's very rare that we miss targets. And even if we don't get a bullseye, it is certainly closer to the life that we are intending on living, versus it just being like, well, leaving it up to chance and drifting into life. You'll never drift into the life that you want. It has to come with that radical focus.
Wow, you brought a tear to my eye. That's incredible.
Mhm.
So, when you talk about alignment meetings, I just want to make this clear. You're not just talking about your business. You're
No.
talking about alignment meetings for your family. But
Yes.
you treat it almost the same way as you do your
Mhm.
business.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
is amazing because I
Yeah.
think you're right. A lot of us are in reactivity mode.
Mhm.
We are reacting to the things around us. We are busy, 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 doing all the
Yes.
things
Mhm.
that there's very little intention behind it. And we're thinking short term.
Yeah.
And short term, not just the day or the week, but I think, we're sometimes we are trying to get through the day or the week, but it's very much, okay, what do I have this month?
Mhm.
We're not thinking longer term, bigger picture.
Mhm.
What are the
Yeah.
changes we want to make? What are the goals that we are setting for ourselves? What are the goals the kids are setting for themselves? And how can we support one another? So I think that's incredibly beautiful and powerful. So, love the concept of radical focus and applying that both in your professional and your personal life. That's just, and the intention behind it is just really beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, it's been such a wonderful gift. It takes work, and
Yeah.
there are Sundays where we're like, oh gosh, we don't want to. Please, we don't want to have to do this. Um, but we have our office, and so it is very close to our house. And so, but nope, we're like, nope, we have to go because we feel it. We feel it when we don't do it.
Yeah.
Life just becomes a little bit more chaotic, and our life is already pretty complex. But we don't need to add another layer of
Right.
chaos.
Right, right, getting crystal clear on what's important and making sure that that is top of mind all the
Yeah.
time. Love that. So, I also love that you talk about being able to align your business goals and objectives with your values. And I
Mhm.
think many women feel this tension between what they truly value
Mhm.
internally, whether or not they write it, journal, post it on a wall, say it out loud, and making money.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what would you say to those women who feel, and I was one of them at one point, who feel like those two things are at odds with one
Yeah.
another?
And aren't we all? Like, don't we all get presented these choices of, do I make money for the sake of making money? Or do I say no and walk away? Even if it's like one of the biggest, deals that you could be signing up for. I'm with you. That was me. It was like, nope, nope. This is, you put your head down, you're a startup. This is what you do. It comes with the territory, and you just work, even if you know that this client is going to be a pain. You just do it anyway. And it really wasn't until I hired a coach, a personal core values coach.
Mm.
Like, I was at my wit's end, and I was just crying to her. I just had hit my wall. And she said, Leslie, it just surprises me how you don't realize how powerful you are. You do not realize the power that you hold. And when she said that to me, it's like she was viewing a version of Leslie that I had no clue like who she was talking
You
about.
hadn't met her yet.
I had not met that powerful Leslie, and yet she saw it. And so that's when I knew. I was like, no, we're going to do this. I need to identify what my personal core values are, because I am making decisions, and it's very easy for me to just default to what this person wants. So at the end of that, we identified three, and it's strategic, influence, and validation. And even saying those three, like, oh, who are you? Why do you need influence and validation? Well, I do. It is just, I need to be at the table. I need to be talking about the why and the how. I can't just be someone that's doing all the what for you. That doesn't work for me. And that really came into play. I had a client that I started with when I first leaped into my own consulting. And so they were 3 years, I mean, consistent, allowed me to make this big leap. And I had just started to feel they had brought in their own operations consultants, people that were coming to the table, and I could feel that my voice and the influence in my voice was getting smaller and smaller.
Mm.
All of a sudden, the tasks that I mean, I was getting just a task list. Make this little adjustment here. Do this for us. Do that for us. And, I want to be someone that really shows you big picture and helps you get to the next level. So I was faced with a very big decision because our term was coming up. It was time for renegotiation. I had always just presented, okay, here's what we'll do for the next 6 months. And just, they had the assumption that we would continue on. Same with me. But for the first time, I said, I don't want to. I don't want to. And that was consistent revenue that I could count on, right? That I had for the last 3 years. And so I got on a call with a friend who also owns an agency. And she was like, listen, I promise if you make a decision based on your values, it will end up like you will be brought something else, right? Whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever, you will be brought something else that is even better. So I proactively sent an email to the director of, it was a large mental health clinic. So sent an email directly to him and thanking him for the time that we have had, but I was going to choose not to renew
Mhm.
our agreement and our retainer. And so I said, we can proceed with figuring out my offboarding. And it was a surprise to them, but I will tell you I made that decision and finished that probably in November of last year. In January of this year, we had an email that came into my inbox. They saw that I spoke at a chamber of commerce here locally, and it is the biggest general contractor in Texas that now has hired us to do their complete website and ongoing digital marketing services. I mean, this one project covers more than a year of what we made with that one project. So it is 100% true
Mhm.
that even though it felt terrifying to walk away from the thing that got me here, and being proactive and saying no, because that was another thing. I don't know about you, but I was like, I need to tell you no before you tell me, because I'm
Mhm.
like reading the signs on the wall. I'm like, this is gonna happen no matter what. I can tell, but I'm not gonna be the one that gets like told sorry no more,
No, you're gonna be the one that walks away.
especially because I already see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, making decisions that are according to your values. I mean, step one, what are your values?
Yeah.
If you don't know what they are, then engaging in some type of practice or hiring a coach or doing some type of assessment that helps you. I mean, that is going to be huge. And I put them on my wall, and I'm like, strategic influence, validation, this opportunity that's come my way. Am I able to be all three?
Mhm.
Not even just one or two.
Yeah.
Am I able to be all three? And if I'm not, I pass on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and it sounds like that was at odds with what you were experiencing in that
Yes.
work, and it
Mhm.
became very apparent to you, right? We often
Mhm.
feel that tension or that friction, and a lot of times we suppress it, we ignore it, and we keep
Yes.
plowing through, and, that's when I think a lot of times the real burnout happens.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you acknowledged it and pivoted. What would you say you had to let go of in terms of your beliefs and your
Mm.
identity? What did you have to shed in order for you to walk away, like you said, from something that had made you successful, that had gotten you to where you are? Because
Mhm.
oftentimes we feel like, this has made me successful. I can't walk away from
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was shedding the belief that this is my cat. Yeah, I mean, this work, I tell people the life of an entrepreneur, the life of a business owner, you might as well sign up for therapy simultaneously because
it.
you like, while this stuff comes up, you're not it's really not even facing a business decision. I was facing, to your point, a mindset decision. And the question that I was really facing was, do you really believe that this is your cap? That this is all that this is the amount of money that you can make, that you're able to make, that there's not any better clients out there for you than this one client. Is that what you truly believe? And so having to shed that, and yet being in the middle, it's also like this middle ground of, I know I don't believe what I used to believe, but I also am not like an expert at believing this new thing. And so it's walking into this uncharted territory while scared.
Yeah.
Um, and still saying it, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to experiment with it anyway. I'm going to see what happens anyway. So yeah, those are some big things that I had to shed and walk away from. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of us is putting those limits on ourselves simply because we've never experienced anything else.
Yeah, push through and do it scared. You know what's so
Mhm.
interesting is as high achieving women, we push through so many things. We push through illness, we push
Yes.
through burnout, we push through sheer exhaustion of being up with
Yes.
kids. We push through malnutrition and not
Yes.
eating, but yet we don't push through the fear.
Mhm.
So I think that is incredible advice, and thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. Just pivoting real quick to your business and the work that you do. We haven't really dug into that, but for the entrepreneurs listening, what would you say in terms of the marketing platforms
Mhm.
um, that we work with? How do we ensure that the marketing platforms we put in place are working as hard as we do so that
Yes.
we're not constantly carrying that weight alone?
I love that. And that's where we came up with our main message is build a website that works as hard as you do. Because when I'm in front of a female CEO, she's working really hard. And I know she's not just working in her business. You just talked about how there's an entire part of our lives, which is family and relationships and children. So we work extremely hard. You should have a platform that does heavy lifting while you're not there. And I believe that that platform, beyond any other marketing platforms, should be your website because your website has the ability to be an extension of you. It really does. And if your website isn't caring and connecting, right? If we're not establishing that type of connection, because maybe it's coming off like a machine. Maybe it's coming off like a digital brochure because when you started, you just created a landing page or a couple of pages, and you're like, "Cool, this is good enough." We're all there. We all start with that website. We
Yeah.
just need contact
Yeah.
information. But the women that I am working with, no, they're in it. They know their revenue streams. They're making money. They have an established business. They're just super embarrassed of this thing now. Like that website, they have shame. They have website shame. They don't want anyone going over there because they haven't touched it in years.
They've outgrown
And
it.
they've outgrown it. Doesn't reflect anything that they're doing. It doesn't reflect their brand. It doesn't reflect them. And so it just kind of sits there and it's wasting space because it's not generating revenue. And they're still trying to utilize marketing tactics as their digital marketing strategy. But I believe a website should be the heart of your strategy. It should be
Mhm.
the hub and
Mhm.
everything, just like a heart pumps blood, pumps energy into all of your limbs. Your website should be pumping and producing energy into every marketing tactic that you have going on,
Sure.
and then bringing and drawing back that energy and then converting that. So people that come, they find what they're looking for. They feel like you understand what they're going through. And now you're creating contacts. This is what the website should be doing. A lot of people spend a lot of time, a lot of money on campaigns that they don't understand why they're not working, on social media posts that they don't understand why they're not working. A lot of women are like, it doesn't matter. I will just stick to referrals and word of mouth. But we live in a digital economy now.
Yeah.
And gone are the days where you can have a website with just a contact form. It's an outdated strategy.
Mhm.
People expect to have a digital playground on that website. They want videos, they want articles, they want podcasts. They want it all because they want to play around with all these different types of formats of content to determine if you are someone that they want to do business with.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so that's what we do. We create websites that are high converting and high performing, and really, really allow that heavy lifting. So it becomes a revenue generating platform.
Amazing. That sounds incredible. And so you work with a lot of women, you design their websites that convert. What would you say is the number one thing that most women get wrong about marketing themselves online, and how can they fix it? And I would just also add that not just for the entrepreneurs, but even the corporate women, right? Because personal branding is important no matter
So,
your
yes.
career journey. But what do we get wrong about marketing
Yeah.
ourselves?
I love that. Well, you and I also share our commonality that we come from Brand Builders Group, which is where you and I have invested heavily in our personal branding. And so I would say that many female CEOs are hiding behind their companies, right? There's a lot of hiding and expecting, even from the website's stance, like, oh, okay, just put the information, just put the services that we do, and that's enough. We have to humanize that platform. We have to humanize every platform
Mhm.
that we're on, and we have to get out from behind the camera. Like if we're just posting a graphic because our team has created these pretty graphics and we're just resharing, that's not enough. People don't even want to follow companies anymore. They want to follow people. And so we have to see the woman behind the brand. And that's tough. It's tough to talk about, how do I get on camera? What am I supposed to say? That's why you and I have invested so much in Brand Builders Group, which has helped. But you could utilize a platform like your website to do that for you, to be able to help tell your story. We do this really neat thing with some of our clients where we give a timeline. So
Mm.
I've been very reflective today because it's my birthday and even going through the last decade. But on an about page, we love creating timelines, like being able to show you when you started and then 2 years down the line when this happened, and then 4 years down the line this happened. And it tells a story, and people are invested in stories. And so they'd much rather do business with someone that they feel like they can relate to, that can empathize with them. But if you keep everything, just service and information, and if you keep yourself behind all things digital because you don't feel like you need it, because you have never, I hear this all the time, I've never gotten any clients from marketing. I've never gotten any clients from my digital marketing or for any of those platforms. Everything has been word of mouth, everything's been referrals. And that is true. I mean, that's where you're going to start, but you're going to one day, right? You're going to run out of it. And you're going to get a referral who's going to go to that platform and say, I actually don't want to do business with her, because the growing consumer market is millennials. And
Yeah.
right behind millennials are Gen Z. And it doesn't matter what your reputation is in real life. If on digital platforms it doesn't match, they won't go with you. And
Mhm.
so I think that's the biggest thing that we get wrong, is we get so, and I'm raising my hand with this, we get so busy. We have so much to do. I have so much client work. I'm on discovery calls. I don't have time to create anything right now. I don't have time to invest in that.
Sure.
Well, we don't have that luxury anymore. And it's quickly becoming apparent just with the rise of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury to just sit and hide behind these things. We need to leverage them, and we need to be extremely intentional with them.
Mhm. Great advice. And I think it's true, the storytelling, the vulnerability, who you are behind the brand, who you are behind the work that you do. And that relatability component is just so powerful.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. So, Leslie, just before we wrap up, what would you say is the one shift that
Mm.
changed, or the biggest shift that changed everything for you?
I mentioned this a little bit. I've talked about a lot of shifts on the podcast. And at first I was going to come on here and talk probably about that August, solo retreat time for me that made that big decision of dropping my coaching. But today, as I've been reflecting, I go back to my 30th birthday, and I mentioned my grandfather passed away. His funeral was on my birthday. And I go back to that shift because it was the first time that I listened to the questioning that I had inside. Up until that point in all my 20s, it was, what do you want me to do? And I'll do it. Tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. I really had lost complete connection to myself. I couldn't tell you what I wanted. I was like the runaway bride, if you've seen that movie. She couldn't even say what kind of eggs she liked. That was me. I couldn't tell you what I wanted because I was so detached from myself. And yet, in that moment, because of the monumental loss that I had experienced, I think it knocked me off of my just yes, yes, yes. It knocked me off of it so much that I was able to kind of dust myself off a little bit and say, I'm actually not happy. This is actually not what I want. And I remember maybe a month later, I picked up my very first personal development book. It was The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And everything changed with that, everything. And I remember writing in my journal during that time, because that was a part of the practice, talking about how I was on my own and owning my own business and making this much, money every month and bringing in this revenue. And it seemed like it took forever. Like at the moment, like I needed it. I wanted it to happen a month. I was like, 6 months, I'm gone. 10 years later, here we are.
Here we
But
are.
without that getting knocked to my feet because of the grief and the pain. And then like, why did his funeral need to be on my birthday? I think that was a part of it. I think it needed to be that drastic and significant in order for it to capture my attention and for me to actually do something about it.
That was your catalyst moment.
Yes, very much so.
And also saying I'm not happy is so hard for us to admit, even to ourselves. Even if we don't say it out loud, just to say it to ourselves is so difficult and uncomfortable, because then what? Then what? And what does it mean for what you've built and who you are? So incredibly powerful story. I want to thank you, Leslee, so much for being here, for sharing your insights, your expertise, and your story. It's really been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much, Gia. What you're doing, what the shift, I think we need to be way more open about them and hear people's shift stories, because I think it normalizes it. And we really don't have, I have a wonderful psychologist that I work with who's also a performance coach. And she was like, everything is a choice. We're never stuck. Everything is a choice. And I think if a woman can hear that, on your podcast, that she's choosing the life that she wants, whether it's great or whether it's awful, it's a choice. And so that means she can decide what to do next with it. So I think what you're doing is incredibly powerful.
Thank you so much. 100%. Couldn't agree more. So, absolutely. Thank you so much, Leslee. Where can our listeners find you? Where can they learn more about Movement Maker?
Great. Well, you can learn more about Movement Maker at movementmaker.pro. And then you can follow me on my platforms. I'm on LinkedIn. That's Leslee, Leslee-Owen. And then I'm also on Instagram. It's just at Leslee Owen.
Perfect. Thanks again, Leslee. I love the work you're doing, and you are a true inspiration. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Gia.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will see you next week. Now go make shift happen. Take care. All right, shifter, that's a wrap on today's episode of What the Shift. But here's the thing. Awareness is just the first step. The real shift happens when you decide to do something with it. So before you go back to business as usual, ask yourself, what is one thing you are done carrying? What's one shift you're ready to make? And if this episode hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, leave a review, and send it to a woman who needs to hear this, because we shift together. Remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next step. And I'll be right here next week, ready to shift with you. This is What the Shift, and we are just getting started.